If you value a certain thing very highly, then it might be easy to think that of course you're smarter and better informed than everyone else, because after all your worldview is the only one that sufficiently values that thing. But this doesn't indicate that other people are dumber than you. It may just mean that other people have different values than you. And their values aren't automatically worse than your values. Other people aren't just dumber clones of yourself. Also, I would like to talk about one more thing that frankly irritates me, our cock, perhaps more than it should. Many people love Tunia's messages, and are either fine with or actively enjoy that she occasionally talks about sex. However, some readers, or listeners, have mentioned that Tunia talks excessively often about sex. After her message, Tunia, what Pleiadians are like. Obviously you're free to have that perspective, yet I would like to give my perspective as well. I think that if you did a word count on all messages Tunia has ever put out, not just last week's message, you'd be surprised how few words Tunia actually spends talking about sex. In most messages she doesn't mention sex at all. And in the others the sex talk either serves a larger purpose, or it's just jokes or stories on the side. However, sex isn't the main point, nor is it most of the word count. It's not like she's writing the Kama Sutra here. Although note that even in the much more pleasure-focused Kama Sutra, people have in their head that that book is just one sex position after the other. When in reality, the Kama Sutra isn't predominantly about sex positions. I guess that if a spiritual book or person talks about sex, especially a woman, that's apparently so scandalous and sticks in the mind so clearly that people think that it's all or mostly about sex. Even though it's not. Sex is an important part of life, so why would it be bad for sex to also be a part of her messages? When Tunia jokes after a century of being with him, I'm still working my husband's penis like I'm a slave driver, then some people still remember that sentence almost 2 years later. But do people remember any other sentence from that 17-page message? Probably not. Channeler's note, Tunia interrupts me to communicate that that sentence was not, in fact, a joke. Now, back to our cock. And then you can wonder if it's the spiritual book or person that is weird about sex, or if it's the average Earth person or Earth society that is weird about sex. Who determines what is excessive sex talk, after all? It's not like Tunia is hurting anyone, it's not like sex or human bodies are bad, and it's not like her being different from the norm is automatically bad. So then, I say to those people who are a bit triggered by Tunia's sex talk, as always it's good to look inwards before you point the finger outwards. Do you have sex is shameful, or bodies are bad, or women aren't allowed to be openly horny, or women must be modest programming? Or maybe you're in pain that most Pleiadians are having a great time while you're down on Earth. Which would be a completely understandable feeling, but if that's alive in you, then it's good to be aware of that and to observe it. Or is sexuality something you judge in yourself, or are you unhappy about your own sex life? Again, I empathize, but if so it would be good to observe it. Personally, when I left my selfish days behind me and I left my fellow reptilians and joined the Pleiadians, I was very repressed and angry and ashamed and stuck in my head. For me, it required a Pleiadian woman, who was just consistently and authentically herself, to eventually help me break out of my own shell and out of my own head and out of my own prison of mental constructs and illusions and nonsense. I called her a bitch a few times, because she triggered me, but really she was just being herself and wasn't hurting anyone. Well, she was hurting me, but then again she really wasn't. I've since apologized to her. She was alive for me to apologize to her, but she chose to pass on before I was able to actually get over my own nonsense enough to realize that I appreciated her, that I cared for her, and that her authentic weirdness had inspired me and had taught me a great deal. It is one of the regrets in my life that I wasn't able to get over my own nonsense in time for me to be able to express to her that she actually meant a lot to me. That she was more to me than, well, you're not a bitch. Sorry. Those were the last words of any substance that I ever said to her. I exchanged a few words with her a couple of times after that, but I didn't say anything meaningful those times. Pathetic. Maybe I'm projecting, but maybe Tunia, or some other Pleiadian woman, can be the authentic teacher who helps you get over some of your nonsense. Not by any particular technique of hers, but just by her being her own authentic weird self. And sometimes maybe by triggering the heck out of you. Good. Get triggered. Get triggered to hell and back. Get triggered until your castle of nonsense collapses in on itself. And I pray that when your castle of nonsense finally collapses, and you finally get over yourself, that woman will still be alive for you to be able to express to her just how much she means to you. I'm projecting, I'm triggered, and I'm crying. End of message.